within a
Recording in
play.
progress.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's plenty of opportunities where we find our way off the field if we're just a little more consistent with our execution. And we had 3 first downs, Mike, on the first drive, and 1 fourth down, and we had opportunities. We were in position on a few of those to get ourselves off the field. And so obviously that starts with us in making sure that we are operating with it in and throughout the week to create the habits that are going to allow guys to cut it loose on the field and make those plays.
BYU and Air Force in front of you, obviously very strong running teams. Your rush defense, I'm sure, has not been up to your standards so far this year. Where's the breakdowns there? I know you're missing a lot of bodies. Any chance you get any bodies back? Any chance for future optimism there on the defensive line?
Yeah, we got who we got. We got a few young guys that have come along that are going to be able to help give us some depth. But our guys are the biggest part too. Is our guys in the amount that we've been on the field, Mike. When we keep ourselves on the field by not executing, especially on third downs. You want to talk about something like we haven't been great on third downs. If we can do a better job executing on third down, we get off the field, Mike. And then now we're not extending drives, and we're keeping ourselves out there longer. But we have a few young guys, Mike, and that's where we're excited to get these guys going, and they got to step up, and they will step up.
Andy, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Coach. It doesn't look like Boise State and BYU started playing each other every year until after your playing career ended. But certainly over the last decade, it seems like BYU is Boise State's most heated rival. As a personally and your staff and your program, how do you guys view this rivalry against BYU?
Yeah, it's a huge game. I mean, it's been on the schedule, like you said. It's consistently. I mean, on and off for the last 20 years, we've played them almost every year. I mean, that's what it is. And so regionally, it's a huge rivalry game. It's always a physical game. They've got an unbelievably physical team year in and year out. Kalani has obviously done a tremendous job now that he's been there for a while in building a foundation within that program. And we're going to have an unbelievable challenge in front of us. Ultimately, what it comes down to week in and week out, what we got to do a better job of is focusing on us and how we're competing at practice, how we're maximizing our opportunities, so that when we get into these games, we can be in character. We can be who we're capable of being for 4 quarters of football. We don't have the lulls coming out of halftime, that we've had.
And there's been so much speculation with BYU joining the Big 12. People are speculating if this rivalry series is going to continue. Personally, would you like to see Boise State and BYU continue playing every year?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it's been an unbelievable game. The games a lot of them have come down to the last minute of the game, Ron. It's been an unbelievable series. Again, not just since we've been playing every year. I mean, it's gone back to the early 2000s where it's been that way.
Thanks, Coach.
Go to Will, and then John, and then Paul J.
Andy, what have you seen out of Tyler Algiere so far this season?
He's a physical runner now. Now they'll get going, with the outside zone, which is extremely fast outside, and his ability and his vision to, be able to find the space within the line of scrimmage and be able to cut back off of the D line and put his foot in the ground and get vertical. He's a physical runner. So that all starts with the front. Whenever you're facing a back that has been as productive and as physical as him, it starts with being able to make sure that our front structure stays intact, especially versus the stretch plays and how lateral they go.
What did you think of Steph's performance on Saturday?
Sorry, say that again, Will. You cut out.
Sorry. What did you think of Steph Cobb's performance on Saturday?
Yeah, it was awesome to get Steph back out there, man. He came up in some key situations where, we know getting the ball in his hands, Shaq's hands, that's been good. That's been good for our offense. And towards the end there, they started playing a little bit softer in their coverages and being able to get Steph the ball and let him run. And he did a nice job of that. Now, obviously, we spoke about it after the game. In doing so, as we're fighting for those yards, we got to do a better job of taking care of the football. And that is it's a non-negotiable. It's a priority that we'll move forward with. And we know our guys care about that. did a great job today working on that and being aware of where the situations are popping up where we're losing this football, and so that we can be better at taking care of it.
Thanks, Andy.
Coach, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hank Bockmeyer's toughness. I think you have to be tough to play that position, but with kind of an offensive line that seems to have a lot of moving parts, the running game probably isn't where you guys want it. You've probably played with some really tough players in your lifetime. Where's Hank in that list?
Yeah, John, I mean, we don't want Hank taking shots like he did, the other day. That is, we've got, number one, we got to do a better job protecting him, and we understand that, and we know that, as well as he's got to keep himself on schedule. Some of those, he's a tough guy and he's a competitor and he wants to hang in there and make every throw. But he's got to keep perspective that sometimes we got to move on to the next play. But he is an unbelievable competitor and extremely tough. I mean, you guys saw it. He took some shots the other day and he popped up and he kept himself in the fight. And he's made a lot of growth throughout this season. And we look forward to him continuing to make the growth, whether it's in the pre-snap and handling and making the adjustments and the checks and then keeping us on schedule throughout the course of plays and making that final decision.
After watching the tape, I'm sure you've watched it several times. What stood out and what do you think the biggest strength of this team is right now, Coach?
Well, I'll tell you like this. I mean, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is just, we've played with great energy and focus and effort on our special teams. And we've got to do a better job with that. We didn't play to our standard on special teams. And I know our guys, they're excited to get that back because that's just not us. And we gotta do a better job with that. We obviously have seen that, if we can protect the quarterback on the offensive side of the ball, we can throw it around a little. We felt like on Saturday, it was our best run output. It doesn't show obviously in the snaps in the runs because of the snaps, right, John? So we felt like some of the things that we were able to do in the run game fits the personality of the players we have.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, what does BYU do defensively that concerns you?
Well, Paul J, they have multiple front structures that they use, and the way the aggressive nature which they play up front, we're going to have to be able to identify targets, whether it's in the run game, and making sure we all understand and know who we're working towards. They're physical up front too, Paul J. Now, and it's not just the D-line, it's the linebackers. They've built the depth up front, over the course of the years, like we were talking about. Kalani's laid this foundation there. And so they have improved their secondary in terms of the ability to play more man. They've shown to do that this year, where it was primarily zone in the years past, and be able to tighten things up in the back end.
Rafdal and Hopper really stepped up at tight end for you. That was pretty good considering Smith didn't go.
Yeah, they did. They stepped up and did a good job. Those guys, they've been pretty steady all year in doing so. So, Riley's been a big piece of the offense and his transition from quarterback to tight end. And he's having, a good year, and we're excited to get him back this week.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Go BJ, Jay, and then Chris to wrap it up.
Hey, Andy, after the game, Hank Bockmeyer took all the blame, for the sacks and the snap issues and stuff, and he put that all on himself. I know you mentioned a little earlier, that there's blame to go around. How do you look at particularly with the offensive line? Is it recruiting? Is it coaching? Is it just depth? Is it, where do you look at the offensive line, and why is it not maybe up to the standard you guys would like it to be at?
Well, I would say this, what Hank is he's growing into become a leader of a team, not just an offense. And he understands the impact he can have. And really that starts with us too, as coaches, and making sure we're, I'll say before Hank, it starts with me making sure that we're making those we're putting the offense in those situations in practice where they got to go through the mechanics of making those audibles at the line, BJ. You know what I'm saying? And for Will being in there the first time snapping in a game situation, you know, aside from those scenarios there, you know, in the run game, it helped us. Now he's got to be more consistent with his snaps as well, and we got to get that squared away. But you know, from the standpoint of the offense, you know, we don't have tremendous depth on the offensive line. You said it, and it will take time. We like the guys we have. We are developing behind the scenes. There are a few guys, younger guys, that are coming along, and we'll continue to recruit. It's going to be obviously a huge priority for us in recruiting. But we're proud of our guys of, you know, we've played 3 different rotations now throughout the course because of injuries. And so it's an accumulation of things. But BJ, the bottom line is the standard's the standard, and we're not going to make excuses, and neither will our guys. They were tremendous yesterday about, you know, where we go forward from here and how we protect the quarterback and how we establish the line of scrimmage. It's not going to be easy. We know BYU's front is unbelievable, but we're going to do the things necessary to make sure that we're growing forward, and the guys are all about that.
I know the schedule has something to do with it, but as we talked about after the game, not used to being 2 and 3 around here for the fan base and stuff. What now that it's been basically 48 hours almost, what is kind of the mood of the team, I guess? And obviously the road continues to get tougher here moving forward. So in terms of not letting this snowball, I guess, and still trying to make something of the season here, how do you kind of big picture look at where you guys are at, and what would your message maybe be to fans that are a little worried out there about where things are at?
Well, 2 and 3 is not the standard. You said it. I mean, it's been a while. Have I been a part of a Boise State team in this position? Yeah, I have. And tremendous things have come from it. And I'll say that right out of the gates. And we're always going to keep perspective. We have everything sitting right in front of us this season. The guys are sitting in here like we have so many things that we can do better, you know, from the guys, I mean, the coaches, the players, everybody. The season's still left in front of us. The unbelievable thing is, we got a lot of conference games left. Obviously, we got this huge game before we get back in and finish all our conference games. But, you know, our goals are still out in front of us that we can, you know, reach. But it's going to take us being our best every single day. And the guys, they understand that. Now, the emphasis about that, it's not what happens on game day isn't because it happens on game day. And that's what we're working to reestablish here and rebuild this foundation about it. And we're not going to sacrifice what we're doing right now to look out for the future. It is about right now. And I know the way the players responded yesterday, we had a leadership meeting, unbelievable. These guys are unbelievable. The 15 leaders that are in the leadership meeting, it was unbelievable. I mean, we could have been in there for 5 hours talking in the things and their belief and where they want to go from here and how they want to finish this season. And then for them to come here this morning and the way we practice and the way that the attention to detail and how they're leading, it's you know, it's pretty it makes you feel really grateful to be a part of something even during these tough times, because tough times don't last. Tough people do.
Thanks, Andy.
How's it going, Andy?
What's up, Jay?
I was actually going to kind of pick it up there. Andy, after the game last weekend, you said that you would, you know, start to talk things over with your leadership council at Boise State. Could you name, I mean, I assume you can't name everybody in that room, but.
No, we're not going to name who's in. Yeah.
What type of people are on that leadership council for your team, and what did kind of come of that meeting from this last week? What has the players' attention at this point?
Well, I mean, the group is represents every position on the team, whether it's 1 or 2 guys, some cases 3 guys, you know, but what it really is it's a group of people that were voted in by not just, you know, the players, but everybody in the building, from, you know, the equipment guys and how they see people lead and treat people around the building and how they model and take care of business and what their discipline and self-accountability is to the, you know, to the program. And so, you know, I'll tell you in there's some guys that are unbelievable. And some of the things that they brought to the table about how they will lead going forward and what they want to do and the standard they want every single day, every single rep at practice and our prep. that will allow us to become who we're capable of becoming. And obviously that starts with us as coaches too. The leadership group is the coaches and the players involved, and then how we bring everybody along with us in doing that. And there's plenty more guys that aren't in the leadership group that do an unbelievable job. And there's 15 guys in there. There can easily be 30.
When it about the offensive line, in your time of coaching, Andy, 5 games into the season, have you seen a scenario where you guys have had to shuffle the deck like as much as what you guys have had to do? And I'm specifically the Nevada game, because the only guy that was playing the position that he's played all season was John Ojukwu.
Right. You know what? Sometimes, circumstances call for finding the best situation. And, we obviously gave up too many sacks. Again, that's not all on one person. That is not all on one group. That's a team deal. Why those things happen, again, it can come down to timing of making sure we get the ball off. It can come down to not IDing the pressures of the right blitzes, or simply, Jay, not winning a one-on-one matchup and not giving Hank time and protecting him. So I'll say this. I mean, there's no one that wants to protect Hank more, than myself and then the coaches. And I'll tell you what, that O-line wants to protect him. And they made that very clear, whether it's him, Jack, whoever it be standing back there, the tailbacks when they're in Wildcat. That they got those guys, their purpose, and they understand what the standard is, and they're going to work to continue to keep growing with whoever that looks like, out there.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, Andy, kind of similar theme, but you guys are averaging, I think, just like 1 yard per carry before contact. In terms of the lack of success rushing the ball, does that kind of change how you approach running the ball and offense in general?
Well, you know what? I mean, we got to be able to move the line of scrimmage, Chris. I mean, to your point, that's why that's happening, right? Number one, we got to be able to target. We got to be able to target who we're working on and who we're working together with. And that starts with creating consistency within the guys that are playing next to each other. And going to Jay's question, and some of these other guys, the consistency of getting guys playing together and working together is everything. Now, at the end of the day, it comes down to physicality and mentality, and that's where we got to continue to improve. And at the end of the day, the game starts at the line of scrimmage. So we believe in the last couple of games we found some concepts that fit our personality of our players and our guys that we can continue to grow on.
And you guys are throwing the ball more than running it. How much of that is just the way Tim likes to run his offense versus adapting to kind of the situation you're in with the line?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, Chris. I think it is a combination of both. Plough's been very successful in the past game and in the previous places he's been, but at the same time too, we can't be dropping back, and passing the whole game. And we understand that and know that as well. Again, we feel like we've identified certain schemes that fit our personnel, and that we can continue to build off of that as we move through the course of the year. I know we're halfway through the year and the record isn't what the standard is, not for us as coaches, players, as a program. We know that, but there's a whole lot of football left in front of us, and we're excited about, where we're going to grow from here, again, with our goals still sitting on the table in front of us.
All right, Andy, thanks for the time.
Sorry, I saw in the comments there's some people that came in late or whatever. Sorry, guys, we got started early. We always try to get going a couple minutes early, okay? Apologize for that. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
All right, Tim, you hear us okay?
Yep.
All right. We'll start off with Ron and then BJ and Jay.
Coach, how's it going today?
What's up, Ron?
So I know we've talked about this a couple times, but there have been so many errant snaps this year, and Hank has found a way to corral so many of them and even make a couple plays out of that. As a former quarterback yourself, what does it take? What kind of poise does it take to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think he's playing pretty well right now. I mean, he's making a lot of good decisions, and the snap problem is obviously critical and something we're trying to get fixed. I think the situation this week was different than the weeks prior, where it was a continual, like every other snap was high or low for him, and the two that got messed up on the one drive there was more, we're audible at the line of scrimmage, new center, just didn't get the communication the right way between the center quarterback. So he was snapping it before we were ready. And sometimes you're going to have some bumps there when you make kind of the amount of changes we've made up front to try to get the right combination. So, but it probably goes unnoticed that, him recovering both of those at the time were pretty critical. And the first time we actually almost were able to make up for it because we followed up the first one with a 20-yard gain on a pass play. So, but we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Obviously, that was a big part of the game.
Timing is so critical in an RPO offense. I mean, does that just ruin RPO play when he has to leap for a snap?
Absolutely, yeah. If you're trying to read, whether it's an RPO or a read option, he's going to run the ball. His ability to read at that point gets taken away once the snap's off. So, definitely something we're going to have to get fixed for us to be more efficient.
How do you fix that at this level? I mean, I don't mean to insult anybody, but snapping seems like a pretty basic part of the game. How do you fix it at this level?
I think at the first thing we got to do is make sure we're simplifying everything for the centers, just so they're not thinking about so many things that maybe that's where some of the anxiety sets in. But again, I thought Will, he'll take heat for the two snaps on the one drive. But if you look at the game other than that, he was snapping it really well. And it was more of a communication thing where he was just snapping it before the quarterback was ready for the snap because he thought it was a normal cadence when we were audible and out of the play. So just more of a miscommunication thing there. But other than that, I thought he actually snapped it pretty well. As
part of that on Hank, he actually mentioned after the game that some of those bad snaps have come when he's been moving toward the line of scrimmage to check a play.
Yeah, I think that's just, he had gone with Kakani for so long, and him and Kakani kind of, can almost talk telepathically to each other. So having to get Dante, so him and Dante worked together for a long time there for about a month. Now you throw a new center in there. And just when he's audibling, just making sure that he's communicating in a way that the center is able to understand that we're changing the play. And he was going through his process, but, those wires got crossed, and that led to the issues on both of those plays.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Ron.
How's it going, Tim?
Hey, BJ.
Hey, with the offensive line, I know it's been getting a lot of heat, this year, but you look at the numbers and the sacks in the last game. I mean, I know you guys are trying, I think it was your fourth different starting five. What can be done at this point? And do you feel like you're getting any closer to maybe getting that group together, or where are you at with the O-line?
I think the bummer about the stats, and obviously that's where everyone's going to look at, as they should. The bummer with the stats is if you look at the first 12 runs of the game, we got 63 yards on 12 carries, right? So to start the game off, the first three drives, you're averaging 5 yards a carry. You're running the ball really well. And then what happens? Well, you get two snaps that takes away 45 yards, right? And so that gets taken away from your run game. And then as the game proceeded and we got down more, we obviously had to pass the ball more, which led to more sacks. We don't want to throw the ball 50 times a game. And we got forced into doing that there in the fourth quarter. We were down by so many, we had to just start chucking it. But two of those sacks are definitely on the quarterback for hanging on to the ball too long. And I think the other three were just a little bit of a combination of moving guys around. So Ben gets beat at guard, and he hadn't played guard all year. We had to move him to guard. And then Will gets beat during a 2-minute drill there at the end where they're not really set on defense. So I think anytime that the passing numbers increase, BJ, you run the risk of the sack numbers increasing. And obviously the tough part about playing O-line is everyone's going to focus on the 5 to 7 plays that go poorly. O-linemen should work in the shadows. If no one's talking about them, then they're probably doing all right. If everyone's talking about them, then everyone's talking about the specific plays. So the lack of run game is obviously going to be the big focal point. And the bummer for us was we got off to a good start. We were averaging 5 yards a carry, and then
couple of those snaps and sacks, all of a sudden that number's a lot lower than it probably displayed. So the numbers are what they are. We got to make sure we're improving it. But I feel good about that group we started in that game. And I know the sack numbers are high, but I think that also goes with the type of game we had to play. We had to throw a lot of passes.
I think only 2 of the 5 linemen were like recruited as scholarship players to Boise State, like out of high school. I mean, with John and Dooley. I mean, is it a recruiting thing? Is it a coaching thing? Is it a talent thing, a depth thing? Is it a combination? What have you guys been able to put your finger just why the offensive line has struggled? Because it even goes back to last year some before you got here.
Yeah, I can't speak on the recruiting because we obviously weren't here, So, but I can tell you guys that we love those dudes and they work really hard and they take a lot of heat. They take a lot of heat from a lot of people, and it's unfortunate because they are working extremely hard to get it right. And we do care about those guys and they're doing a lot of things really well. But totality, consistency, they're just not hitting those marks that have been hit here for a long time. And that standard is really high. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, BJ. I think our depth is the number one thing I think about. We just don't have a large number of guys right now that can go in there and do the things we want. And so when Kekani goes down and Garrett Kern goes down, all of a sudden those numbers start to dwindle and you're starting to look at like, oh man, now we don't have as many guys that can come in and replace that have had a lot of time to play. So I think we're starting to come out of it. I know guys are probably going to roll their eyes on that statement, but again, I think if you look at the film and watch the first half of the game, those guys were doing a lot of really good things. We just got to do it consistently.
Are you expecting to have Kekani at some point this season?
We're hopeful. We're very hopeful. I know he's hopeful for it too. That's been something that's obviously been tough. He's a great player, and not having your center can cause a ripple effect. So, but we're going to do what's best for him, and we care about him and love him. So we want him to be healthy and feeling good before we start getting down anywhere towards that.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks, BJ.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Jay.
You kind of brought this up, but Tim, the first few runs of the game were highly successful, and on the first 12, you picked up 63 yards, and all of them were like positive runs too. How close do you feel like you are to finding this, and how important is it to eliminate those 5 to 7 bad plays a game that have kind of shaped a couple of these games like that?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I think we're looking at a really fine line of where we could be offensively and where we are. The reality is we are where we are. I mean, the record is what it is. The numbers are what they are. And that's what you guys are going to focus on. And you should. As a coach, I can see that we're right there, that we're 5 to 7 plays away from hanging up a much higher number on those guys in that game. And so our focus is how do we eliminate those handful of plays? Where do they come from? How do we get it solved? And we're going to keep focusing on that, and we will get it solved. It's going to happen. With as successful as we are right now in the pass game, we just got to get the other parts of the offense together. And again, I think it's new for guys and they're getting more comfortable with it. We have been moving guys in and out with injuries. But that's no excuse for some of the plays we're having right now. And as long as we can stop shooting ourselves in the foot, get those 5 to 7 plays figured out, Jay, I really think we are close. But sometimes talk is cheap. We got to put it together, and I think we will. I believe we will.
When it comes to Hank Bockmeyer, obviously he was put in a situation he had to throw the ball 48 times. A lot of those situations, the defense knows you guys are throwing the ball. He's going 4th and 2, head first in the linebackers trying to move the chains. It looks like he's sporting a knee brace. Where is Hank right now, mentally and physically? Because if you see him on the field after a loss, you can tell it weighs on him.
Yeah. I think he's playing really well, and I think obviously quarterbacks are going to be judged as they should be by wins and losses. I mean, that's really what quarterbacks are going to live by in the game we play, whether it's NFL or college. It's going to be how successful was the quarterback, right? And that standard is set even higher here because the all-time winningest quarterback played here, right? So we all know where that number is. But as his quarterback coach, I would tell you he is playing tremendous football. And I hope everyone understands if you can throw 72% completions for almost 400 yards, you're playing pretty dang good. So I think he's doing everything that we want at the position right now, and I still think he's making mistakes that people don't even see that we can correct. So I still think his best football is ahead of him, and he's always going to hold himself accountable to when we don't win games, because that's what leaders should do. So I'm proud of him for that. He believes he can play better. I believe he can play better. But I would defend him and say I think he's playing pretty well at the same time. I mean, some of those plays he made in that game were pretty outstanding. So he's doing a lot of things behind the scenes. He's working really hard, but we're going to hold him to a high standard. I still think he can play better. He believes that too. And I'm excited because if he can play even better than what he's playing right now, I think that's going to be a high level.
More for me. Every week we ask you for your reaction to Khalil Shakir, but he's just so darn consistent now with these one-hand grabs. I'll shift over to Steph Cobb's career high 10 grabs, career high 132 yards, gets in the end zone a pair of times. We heard everybody saying that Steph was on the verge of having a big season, but now he's backing it up. So what has allowed Steph to have this success?
Well, I think it starts with his work ethic and just how hard he's pushed himself to get to this point. You know, your heart breaks for a guy like him because he really was playing at a dominant level. And then, like we were talking about Will Farrar, right? He plays really well, but he has the 2 snaps, and that's what you guys are going to focus on. Or Steph has a career day, but he fumbles the ball and has the 1 ball bounce off into a pick. And that's all a lot of people are going to focus on. And it's a shame, but it comes with the territory. I think he's a fantastic player. I think Octavius Evans is a fantastic player. I mean, what that guy did in the game too was pretty remarkable. So if you told me that Shaq was only going to have 4 catches for 70 yards, I would have said, man, what the heck am I doing? I got to figure out my life. But Steph had a big day. Octavius had a big day. Kurt Rothdahl caught some passes. So I think we showed other guys can go. Our focus is to still get Shaq a lot of touches, and we got to get him more than 4 touches in a game. That's not enough. But I thought everyone saw if we can get Octavius and Steph going with the rest of those guys, we're going to have a pretty lethal group. I believe in Steph Cobbs. I'm very proud of him. I know he's going to hold himself accountable to those 2 plays, but I hope he knows how good he is and how much we care about him. He's going to continue to play well.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Jay.
Let's go Mike, Chris, and Will.
Tim, George Alani, when you don't have him from start of the season to the finish of the season, or the start of a game to the end of a game, how much does that change? How much do you miss George Alani when you don't have George Alani?
That was a tough blow, Mike. I mean, I think it was an emotional blow a little bit for a lot of us, just because we care so much about George, and he had worked so hard to get back. And it has been tough for us to get in a rhythm in the running game, without your guy. And all of a sudden he goes down again, and we're back in the same spot, right? So the positive is I do think Cyrus is doing some good things. And I think we got to see Andrew. He popped a big run there in the second half, and he can do some good things too. Hoping to get Taquan Tyler going a little bit and keep bringing Tyler Crow in there as well. We got some guys that can do it. But like you said, Mike George has done it at a high level, and he's part of our leadership group for a reason. So that was a tough blow for us, but one that we got to overcome.
When protection doesn't go well always on the offensive line, sometimes you can go to the edge and depend on a tight end, or sometimes you can go to the backfield and depend on a running back and some pass pro. You didn't have Riley Smith, who's learning how to be a blocker. You didn't have George Alani, who I've always thought was a hell of a pass pro guy. How much do the edges, how much is the pass pro in the backfield leading to your offensive line and protection problems right now?
Yeah, I think, I think the sacks in this particular game, other than the one there to start the second half, that was more interior stuff. Our guards and center got beat. But normally, you're going to have tight ends and tailbacks that are going to help out in protection, and they've done a good job all year. And we have multiple ways to help tackles and chip guys or bust guys or however you're going to do that. But I think if you look at the protection, really the bulk of the sacks have come in 2 games, really the Nevada game and the Oklahoma State game. And so you look at both those games. In those scenarios, we had to end up throwing the ball a lot more than we really wanted to. And that's going to lead to more pressure, Mike, just because they know we're throwing it. And so we got to do a better job, again, establishing the run game like we've all talked about, so that we can be balanced and not put our guys in a position where they're throwing it so much. And then we got to do a better job at quarterback, making sure we're getting rid of the ball, so that all that comes together. And so I think it's a deeper conversation than just helping out the edges, you know.
Tim, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, Tim, kind of along those lines, you guys are averaging 1 yard per carry before contact. How much of that is on the line? How much of that is backs? I mean, is it a mix?
I think whenever you're getting contact that early, Chris, you got to look at what's going on up front for sure. I mean, that's definitely something early on in the year. UCF game for sure. Oklahoma State game for sure. A lot of negative runs, a lot of negative plays there. That's going to go with what's going on up front for sure. So anytime that's taking place, I think that's a big part of it. But again, I think our issues, Chris, go back to, you look at this game again, we lost 97 yards of offense, right? So I think we gained around 410 when you take that 97 away. If you add that 97, you're looking at over 500 yards, and now you're running for, whatever the number increases. So we got to look at the negative yards that come from the sacks, the bad snaps, because those all get taken from the run yards, right? So you look up at the scoreboard or you look at the sheet at the end of the game and it says 28 yards rushing. But in reality, you lost 97 yards, and that came away from your run game. So we got to figure out how to eliminate the negative plays, those 5 to 8 blunder plays that Jay was kind of talking about earlier.
And does that impact your play calling when you know that, the running game has been getting hit so quickly that you feel like maybe you have to pass it more, or is that just how you typically want to run the offense?
No, it's obviously you don't want to be pass heavy, I guess, if that's the question, and I think in the UCF games, Oklahoma State games, it was apparent that we were struggling to get started in the run game. So we had to lean on the pass. This game, I thought the tragic thing, Chris, was we were running the ball really well. And so early on in the game, we were really balanced and running the RPOs and getting 5 yards a carry and then dropping back, getting the tempo going. So there was a good mix. And then the third quarter happened where there was a lot. I think we had 3 one-play drives, right, where we turned it over on the first play. And so when that happens, now you're down by 17 points. Now the run game kind of becomes obsolete. So, again, I think one of my favorite quotes, again, is like, balance is an illusion, right? We all talk about we want balance. I want to be balanced. I want to be balanced. But, balance is an illusion. What we seek is fulfillment, right? We seek joy. So, I'd love to be balanced and say we're the best running team in the country and the best passing team in the country. But at the end of the day, I really just want to seek fulfillment and seek joy. And we're going to feel fulfilled if we can get some victories here. However we get to those victories, I'm going to be happy whether we run it for 300 yards or throw it for 300 yards. We'll figure out a way to get that done.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Speaking of joy, whenever we've talked with Octavius Evans the last couple of years, in the last couple of weeks especially, it seems like he's having a lot of fun. What have you seen out of him this season?
Dr. Ock, as I like to call him, or Doc, is someone that puts a smile on my face every day. You try not to have favorites, kind of like your sons, right? Like I got 3 sons, trying to have favorites, even though my 3-year-old is testing me every day, right? So, but I love that kid, man. He is an awesome young man and has battled his way through a lot of things in life. Had a tough COVID year last year, battling through a lot of things. He is a tireless worker. And that's why he was a captain for our last game. If you come out to a practice, that guy is practicing so hard that we got to tell him to calm down with the GPS numbers every day. And had to go out of the game with an injury, took him into the locker room. He was fighting doctors off, got his way back in the game. Super proud of that guy. And, when I talk to scouts or people around the league, and Shaq is obviously a tremendous player, but I have a lot of belief in Doc. And I think he's going to have even more contributions as the year goes, not only as a player, but as a leader and who he is. So I'm very proud of him.
You look at BYU's defense. What stands out to you about them?
Where do you start? Very, very talented group. They fly around to the ball. They have a system that they really believe in. They're very confident. They're very long. They get hands on a lot of footballs. They cause a lot of turnovers. They're very stout up front. we got our hands full. They are a tremendous group. They've earned that ranking, and especially playing at home. I mean, if you watch the film from the end zone copy, the cameras are shaking. So we're going into a tough environment, but I mean, what better environment, what better way to get this thing figured out? We talk about finding consistency. We're talking about challenging ourselves. We got a lot of people doubting us. People want to say a lot of negative things. What a great opportunity for us to stick together and to rise to the challenge and go play a top 10 team on the road, where I'm sure a lot of people won't give us a lot of chance. That sounds like a great chance for potential, Will.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Paul J, we'll go to you.
Sorry, I'm new to this. Coach, BYU has been noted for some kind of ticky-tack things that they've done defensively over the years. Granted, new coaching staff, et cetera. Do you prepare your team for this in any way, or do you not even mention it?
When you say ticky-tack, Paul, do you mean like stuff after the play kind of things? Is that what you're talking? Okay.
Stuff after the play kind of thing.
Sure. Yes. Okay. Yep. I think that's one of those things. It's football, Paul. I mean, I think there's going to be, everyone does that. I think if you come to one of our practices, you'll see our guys do that back and forth to each other too, right? I think if you're a competitive team and you believe in what you're doing, some guys are going to be really vocal about explaining that to you after every play, and some guys aren't. If they do that, I got belief in our guys that we have composure and we'll play with a lot of poise but we'll compete as well. So that just makes it more fun, I think.
The old thing about, you win a game if you run the ball, stop the run, and don't turn it over. All of that kind of fell apart against Nevada. So are you stressing that this week? We got to run the ball better. We can't turn it over against a good team.
Yeah, I think the turnovers definitely, Paul. I mean, if you look at that game, it comes down to our 3 turnovers on offense. And you start the second half, you got some momentum going. I think we had 4 drives in the first half. We scored 3 touchdowns on 4 drives. And the one drive we didn't score was the snapping drive where the ball was snapped all over the place. So we're feeling pretty good offensively. And then we come out in the first play, sack fumble. That's just a momentum drain, right? So it's definitely the turnovers that we focus on more than how well we can run the ball. And again, I think I totally get the criticism. And like I told you guys before, it's totally warranted, right? If we don't run the ball well, that's on me. It's not on the O-line. It's not on the tailbacks. That's on me. We got to figure out a way as a staff to create positive runs for our guys so we can find a situation where we can not just lean heavily on the pass to move the ball. But I would tell you guys that it's important as a leader, or as a coach, or as a teacher, that like you were saying, Paul, if the message is, hey guys, we have to run the ball, we have to run the ball, we have to run the ball, that's going to create a lot of anxiety and a lot of angst in that situation, right? We have to do this. We don't have to do anything. What do we want to do, right? We want to run the ball better. Well, if we want to run the ball better, then we need to improve in these things, right? Our fundamentals, our techniques, our physicality, our ball security, our scheme, whatever that is. So we're focusing on what we want to do, Paul, not what we have to do. We want to run the ball better. And
you don't tell them, don't fumble.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Hey, let's have great ball security. Right.
Right.
So I'm a real believer in that. What we want to do is we want to run the ball better. We want to be more physical. And that's not to please the critics. That's just because we want to run the ball. We want to be a physical team. So I'm a believer that we're going to do that. And I thought we were on the way to doing it last week. And we'll keep swinging that hammer, Paul, and it's going to bust loose.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Tim, appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Appreciate you.
Recording stopped.
Thanks, Tim.
Good afternoon, guys.
Recording in progress.
All right, we'll start with Mallory this time and then go Ron and BJ. John's still around?
Yeah, I'm right here. Coach, the decision to move Austin Bolt or have him playing defense, just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Saw him warming up there and working out there at practice. And is that a permanent move?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see how it goes. I mean, I'll tell you right now, John, I mean, he is, and you guys know if you've been around there, you know, he's a phenomenal athlete, very coachable. And Coach Avalos actually showed us some clips of him even on the scout team playing some DN, doing some pretty impressive things. So I think it's something that I know we're excited about, him being able to learn it right now and grow in it and learn the techniques and the fundamentals that we teach at that position. But he definitely has a future there. So I'll tell you this much. I'm going to try and keep him on the defensive side of the ball as long as we can. And he's got some good guys to learn from, especially with, Shane being banged up last weekend. You know, it was good to have him be able to learn some of those things and grow and create some more depth at either D end or stud.
And I guess another one, I mean, BYU, we're not sure exactly who's going to play quarterback. I just want to ask you what your process is like when you're possibly preparing for multiple quarterbacks. BYU's played 3 so far this year. Again, we don't know what they're going to do, but what is your process? What do you do as a result of that, Spencer?
Yeah, for us, we obviously plan for either one, you know, and especially in this case, they're different. You know, number 3, their starter at the beginning of the season can make all the throws, but where the aspect of the game that he brings is he's an elite athlete and can run. I mean, there's multiple plays on film where against Arizona, he has a 60-yard scramble for a touchdown on a broken play. He on 3rd and 1 against Utah, he takes a zone read for 60. You know, so he's got that type of get up and go in regards to his athletic ability. And so we'll be planning for that. We'll also be planning for whoever else shows up, because at the end of the day, I have a ton of respect for them and what they do offensively, and they're going to do what they do, and they're going to run the rock, and they're going to have their complement passes off of it. So, but that to answer your question, John, you kind of got to prepare for both, and you got to plan for both, and get your guys locked in on whoever's going to show up on Saturday.
Thanks, Spencer.
Appreciate it, John.
So Spencer, obviously you guys are going to face a pretty talented running game on Saturday. What stands out on film about Tyler Algiere?
I'll tell you what, I mean, from hearing his story and knowing it now for a couple of years, you know, former walk-on, played linebacker, moved to running back, you can tell the edge with which he runs. You know, he's got that edge. He's a competitor. It's very seldom on film, Ron, do you see the first guy take him down. You know, runs with great pad level, extremely strong, and very similar to some of the backs we've seen. Is if you're wrong, it's gonna be out. And you see some plays even past weekend where, you know, short yardage, it's not fit up right, and it's 60 yards to the crib. So I think he's a very tough runner. He's explosive. He's got great balance. And you better gang tackle him because of how strong he is and how quick he is at the point of attack. I think he's a hell of a runner.
And you guys have so much experience at linebacker, just with Wimpy and Noah. You know, given that fact and the fact that you guys have struggled to defend against the run so much, has that been frustrating or surprising at all for you this year?
Yeah, I mean, just like obviously, you know, disappointed on what happened this weekend, and I take, you know, full responsibility for it, and especially when there's things that you know you're better than, especially in calls and different things. You're like, man, I know we're better than this. And by the end of the day, we're just going back to our process and seeing, okay, how can we as coaches first and foremost be better, and how can we simplify this for our players so that we don't make some of the mistakes that were made on Saturday and clean it up, because we got what it takes. We've got the players. We've got the right schemes. It's just cleaning up those small details across the board, because everybody at this point in the season is going to be banged up. You know, you're week 6, and that's just what it is. And so getting our guys just to play fast, play with discipline, play with the fundamentals and technique we want is going to be huge for us. And at the end of the day, that's what we're going to focus on, and we're going to have good switch ups and different things. But the biggest thing is just our guys playing with discipline.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Ron.
And so what is the biggest frustration for you right now? Is it the, you know, rush defense, the third downs? I think you're 110th in the country right now. Is it the 20-yard, you know, explosive plays? I think you're 117th. I mean, what area is giving you the most frustration right now and causing the most problems?
Yeah, BJ, man, obviously all those, you know, you're are frustrating and not happy about. I think for me, I try not to focus too much on where we rank and some of those things, especially as you're going through the season. The biggest thing for me is just making sure we continue to grow and learn from mistakes we've had game to game and work to not let them happen again. If it's in the run game, if it's in the pass game, if it's mistakes that I make, whatever it might be, just try and learn from and grow. Because at the end of the day, I really truly believe when our guys are playing in character and they're doing what I believe they can, we've shown some really good things. We just got to do it consistently. You go from 1 week where things, go well and things are doing, exactly what you want to do in some circumstances. And then all of a sudden you do things that are completely out of character. So just trying to reel our guys in and get back to the fundamentals and technique of what we do and not let some of the other things, take control of it, BJ, because you're right. I mean, it's, in the game, you watch it, and especially some of the third downs, different things. You're like, man, that's what we thought was coming. This is what we wanted to be in, and didn't make the play when we had it. And so, getting that stuff cleaned up, and we will. And I know our guys are excited to grow in that. And I know us as a coaching staff are excited to help them grow and excited to put them in better situations. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we got to work obviously to clean all those areas up. Long answer to that question. Sorry, BJ.
That's okay. What's it been like for you? I mean, you guys are 2-3, and that's not something that anybody's used to around here, and obviously frustrated with how things are going, and fans are going to be fans, and you're taking a little criticism maybe on social media and video shows, whatever, and you're, a young coach in your first year leading the defense here. What's this been like for you trying to deal with everything and try to get this thing, fixed?
Yeah. And first and foremost, I try and just focus on the things that we can control, definitely, obviously frustrated, at the end of the game, very frustrated, hate losing on the blue, hate losing in general. And I'll be the first to say it, and it breaks your heart. But, instead of dwelling on it, it's like, okay, how can we get these things fixed and how can we be better going forward? Because we still got a lot of football left to play. We got everything still in front of us, and trying to not only myself focus on that, but try and keep that mentality for our guys. But it is a fine line between just moving on and not dwelling on it. But you got to get those things fixed so they don't continue to show up. And there have been some things that have showed up week to week that we need to do a better job making sure don't happen again. And so to answer your question, BJ, I mean, I'm trying to focus on the things that we can control, and with our whole staff. And for us, it's just the little things. How are we prepping? Can we be better this week in how we prep for an opponent? Can we be better from a Monday practice to a Tuesday to a Wednesday? And going back to those small things that we can control, because I really am a firm believer that the rest of it will handle itself on Saturdays, and you'll see a better product than you did this past weekend. And at the end of the day, I just want our guys to be confident in that.
Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks, BJ.
Go to Bob, Chris, and Jay.
Spencer, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing good. Hey, question first of all on looking at our defensive side. How much do you think getting off the field on third down would help the play? Because it seems like you didn't rotate a lot, especially up front in the defense, that if you could stop a drive at, say, 5 plays versus a drive that goes to 8 or 9 plays, how much would that help?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, getting off the field either on third down or creating takeaways, which we've done a good job this year, and we didn't get any on Saturday, is really the lifeblood of your defense. You got to get off the field, and the more plays and the more opportunities you give offenses, especially a good offense, they're going to make you pay, and they did on Saturday. And so, kind of looking at everything in regards to that, from how we're executing on third downs to some of the schemes we're using, just trying to make sure we put our guys in good situations, and then making sure they know very clearly and concise how to execute in those situations, because I know we can and we need to be better. And so it's a huge part, Bob, because at the end of the day, the longer you stay on the field, it's not going to go well for you on defense. And so when we get those opportunities, which we did, throughout the game to get off the field and did at some points and didn't at others, was really a lot of the difference maker.
And then when you look at BYU offensively, the biggest difference to me is you don't see Zach Wilson taking the snaps at quarterback. They've, had guys that have different strengths. So based on their play selection and what you've seen in the first 5 games, how is their offense most different scheme-wise than it was last year?
Yeah, I don't know how much different it is scheme-wise. Obviously, I think, Zach Wilson obviously is a, elite quarterback, but, we played them for a couple of years. And even in 2019, we played them when Zach Wilson was hurt and played Romney. And so their system, I think they do a great job with having complement plays. So you got to be able to stop their stretch run game. They got some complement runs off of it. And then they've got the complement play action boot pass game that goes along with that as well. And so regardless who's, the under center or who's taking the snaps, is they're going to have guys that fit that system. And if it's Jaron Hall, if it's Romney, whoever it might be that's going to be playing, they're going to step in and do a really good job. Obviously, Zach Wilson can do some things that are head scratching and has done it against multiple opponents and is doing it in the NFL now. But I don't think they're overall as a schematic offense has changed much. It's just a different guy throwing the rock.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Spencer, on third downs, you guys are facing about the same yardage to go as you were a year ago. So it's not like, doesn't seem like you guys are losing first and second down. Is there anything you point to for the third down troubles?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, we're obviously looking at it all right now, and there's a lot of different factors. It could be, one, putting him in better situations, which at the end of the day, it always comes down to me making sure that happens. It's executing the technique at that moment and not trying to do someone else's job. If it's man-to-man coverage, I'm going to cover my man. I'm going to do my job. It's creating more rush up front. So there's a lot of different factors that go into us not being successful on third down. And at the end of the day, it's monumental to play good defense to get off the field on third down. And we have done a better job winning first and second because we're getting in third and longer windows, and those are the ones you got to win. You got to get off the field, and we haven't consistently, and you need to. And so looking at it from the top down, making sure that we're obviously first and foremost putting them in the right schemes, but then simplifying it for our guys to where they can be confident to execute it in those crucial moments because we just haven't. And it starts with me, and looking at it and making sure that we get that fix is huge because we got to get off the field.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Me?
Yeah, it's you, Jay.
All right. What's up, Spence?
What's up, Jay?
I kind of got a long-winded question for you, but hang with me for a second here.
Mm-hmm.
So, watching Georgia play this last week, I know they got a bunch of NFL guys over there, but you can also notice that they are just a connected defensive unit. If you go back and you look at your initial depth chart this season, up front, you are now missing more guys than you have available to you on that depth chart. At defensive end, Shaden Irwin, Isaac Calamente gone. Instead of playing Scaly Gahan, you're playing a true freshman in Ahmed Hassini. I mean, I know that you guys won't make excuses, but when it comes to certain situations and putting players in better situations, how difficult can that be when you don't have your full deck, or in this case, not even half a deck?
Yeah, Jay, it's a great point. I mean, at the end of the day, and you hit the nail on the head, you do what you do with what you got. And I really do believe that we've got all we need right now to be successful and still achieve our goal. And it's us as coaches to make sure we put guys in the right situation. So if a certain player is younger and couldn't do maybe what the starter could do, then it's our job to put him in a better situation so he can execute. If he can't, if he's not an elite edge rusher on this certain down and distance, we got to get someone else that can do it. And so you end up having to personnel things a little bit more and make sure you put guys in the right situation because as a coach and especially as a defensive coordinator, that's all we can do. We're trying to move the stress to where we're consistently switching that up from a down to down basis, but creating that consistency and keeping our guys healthy to where we can grow and they can start to put more game reps under their belt and just grow as a unit is going to be huge. Because I completely agree with you, Jay. And at the end of the day, we got to make sure our guys in the right situation. Whoever we got, who's ever healthy, we're gonna get them ready to go, and we're gonna put them in good situations, and we're gonna make sure they can play fast and confident.
As you adjust and try to find those mixes and matches or whatever. What have you found in Isaiah Banya, who last week he had 3 sacks? You go back 15 years, the only other Broncos to achieve that are DeMarcus Lawrence, Curtis Weaver, and Kamale Correa. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good group to be associated with.
No doubt, and just excited to see his growth and development. Coach Collins, Coach Avalos has done a great job seeing him grow, and even how he preps, Jay, has been way different. He's in the film room all the time. He's understanding the intricacies of the game because he's an elite athlete. He's got a great get off. He has a lot of those tools, but seeing him take steps and how to play the game and how to be on the attack's been awesome. And him, just like a lot of our players, you know, he's younger and he's got a long way to go, and he's excited to keep taking those steps, because I really believe that Isaiah hasn't even tapped his potential in regards to how good he can be, and was really excited for him to be able to make those plays. And we obviously needed him to make them. And there's even more on the table for him. So excited to see him grow and step into that role. And it's cool to see him, you know, with having to move Dimitri to DN with Shane being out and having him kind of step into that starting role. He really took the reins and ran with it. And it's awesome when you can see someone do that.
One more for me. And I don't know if you could just kind of walk us through this one. And I don't mean to be critical, but maybe just to enlighten us or whatever. But on that touchdown run that Toa had, almost started really to shift the game in Nevada's favor. JL was kind of staring down the barrel at him, and it looked like he kind of got caught on his heels a little bit. I don't know if that's a tough hit in today's game, because, you know, you're worried about going full bore at somebody and maybe targeting, or I don't know. But how did you guys kind of view that play afterwards?
Yeah, it's one of those plays that you're obviously frustrated about at a lot of different levels. You know, it's not on one person. There's some stuff up front we got to clean up that didn't fit out well in that play. There's some fits from the leverage in regards to that play. And then, you know, from watching, I think JL just essentially just kind of overthought it and thought it was going to go somewhere it did. And then all of a sudden he's got this big back on his face on the 1 yard line, and you see what happened. But the plays that hit us is not one guy, it's not two guys, not one position group. It's a lack of focus on the details in those certain plays, and the consistency to grow that and get that done, starting with me, is going to be the biggest thing going forward, because I know we can. It's just doing it consistently from first down, second down, and third down is going to be the difference. And we've seen times this year where we have, and then obviously we've seen times where we haven't. So just making that to where it's more consistent, rep after rep is key.
JL's been really good this year. Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Let's go to Will.
Hey, Spence, what kind of threat does Gunnar Romney provide for you guys on the outside?
The thing about the receivers at BYU, Romney being one of them, is they just got great length across the board, and they've done a great job recruiting from the O-line to the tight ends, the receivers, where they got a lot of length, and they do a great job using it to their advantage. I think, you know, Gunnar does a great job tracking the ball. He's got good speed, but he uses his length, you know, to really find the ball in the air, and he can track it really well. So they've got just a really good offense to complement who their personnel are. They got a very big, fast, athletic O-line. They've got great tailbacks, and they've got those receivers that can win the one-on-one jump ball with their play action shots. So hats off to them and how they've recruited and how they've really fit their scheme to match their personnel.
You think about this matchup with BYU guys that you guys are so familiar with. How physical is this game? How would you describe the physicality whenever Boise State and BYU face each other?
Oh, it's going to be through the roof. You know, it's just one of those games, and they've done a phenomenal job running the ball, and they're going to come out and want to do the exact same thing, and we're going to come out and work to stop them. I mean, that's what it's going to be, and I know it's going to be no different from the offense. Our offense versus their defense is going to be the same way. And to your point, you know, being such a close team to us, you know, we know each other. We'd be able to play each other every year. And so that brings a little bit of that rivalry to it, which is fun. And I know our guys are excited for the challenge. We obviously know who they are and how good they are, and we're excited for the challenge. And my hat's off to them. They've had a phenomenal run, and they're doing a great job, but we're going to work our tail off this week to clean up the things we need to and clean up the discipline stuff, and starting with the coaches all the way to the players, so we can be ready to go on Saturday afternoon.
Thanks, Spence.
Thanks, Will.
I think Mike Prater dropped off. So, yep, I think we're good. Spencer, appreciate the time.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Spencer.
Recording stopped.